Could you switch off your microphones, please? All right, great. That's good. I mean, it's always good etiquette to switch off the mics, right? And then you only switch them back on when you have a question or something. So what I'm going to have to suggest we do for now is, I see there's only 14 people, right? 14 out of 84 is not very inspiring. So I'll suggest that we give the others a few more minutes. Okay, let's just give it a few more minutes. Let's just wait until somewhere around 17:05 maybe. I think that's a good enough estimate. Hopefully there'll be more people around by then. Is that fine? Is that fine? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir. We can get you, sir, if it's okay.
Yeah, it appears you're not following the rules. So if you need to talk, you unmute your mic and then you respond, right? That's how it works.
No,
That's what I'm doing myself. I speak.
We can hear you, sir. Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, fine, great. So 17:05.
Right.
Or you can continue chatting if you want to.
Well, it seems.
sir, how are you? We miss you. We miss your people.
Which take away? We're not doing the school now. I saw a neka.
Chiringa.
Yeah, and the way so.
At bro?
And I pass a 40 GB.
I pass a 40 GB boy. And if you go pirida, you can see the same man if you go I think I seen some money, guys.
40 GB.
Wala wewe.
40. Yeah, inaanga na bwana 40 boy.
40 kai lizi ama kamba 40 when nangizana ka message, but when you actually check it's full.
Kusiana kwa product vazo ngipala naye.
That's the way of making it easier.
Nanga it's okay. It's good when you subscribe for it again, it becomes an unlimited one, right?
I think so.
He's got a router. So nakota 40 GB. So if it a fupi, it's just 2 GB plus 50 MB, of which
Guys,
I have that one with 1 GB. Because of the boys,
Mwemba we.
Oya bro.
Ushtika?
Tiese lako chewe aishi kuisha chaba.
Hizi yaka. Oh. Tie joina hoye. Punzire atani. Kizo punzire atani last time. But yeah, last time is a worse. Network is a bad one.
Aye.
Couldn't get it. Yeah, I couldn't get the thing. It's like because of no comeback of very important years of time, isn't it?
You're gonna go at the lecture, right?
Oh. Mushtika.
Mushtika, not yet. Have you ever been late to an online lecture?
Ungachedwe online way.
Not yet do it.
Ushtika kansi we.
Something
era waiva pena vitu hizo.
Where is the
yes,
what is
all of them.
oh
If you so I could use the machine, you would have saved 70 battery power before it would have been charging again at the same time.
no so I don't think look Steve.
We're waiting for them to
Oh, wait, just go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry, me something na ya. Wala sa online. You can show me. Leandro, excuse me.
Waenda.
Naenda wote.
Aenda.
Kama kwa excuse me kaidi.
Excuse me. Naenda.
We uze inifuna. Inifuna yeye jana kamba guys.
Ija. Oh, nzako za chef.
Oh, akutamba we. Okay. Guys, tazima futi.
Why is you guys? Why you quiet? Like why is everyone?
Let me show you that. What was that thing I should discuss? Right?
1705 yakwana so chembekeza wabwere guy.
In fact, it's 1706 now.
Era mpondo amagogo na mgaza ali mkitchen mwaparana.
Guy. Fight yambaka nene ndemo npana nsaneka luyando la nawe.
Estiparana.
Sana ngubwani.
Ndiweze estiparana.
The man is a minute.
Let's not be
Wi-Fi toboye watkumbwiza papo nspana unpati nbwere.
Uzafuna kuenda boy. Uzafuna kuenda. Fika. But network is bad.
Yeah, friend.
My boy, that's size on.
Anyway, guys, so serious, guys. Jambo para na nasimama pamene hapa zona, guys.
Ai, nani anataka?
Oi. Nizizio na wewe singapalana naye wewe. Wacha. Lazima najua. Nilishua wewe. Like I'm checking your photo.
100%.
Wazona wewe. Sitipalana wewe.
Takwana watumile nkonfoni walaitoni zone. Bando.
Balipo. Ngikambe nabo.
No, it's online.
He's there.
Whoa. Hey, bakalipo.
Balipo guy.
My wife still on. Oh, balipo.
Is that
Balipo.
Babwela, guys.
Okay.
All right. It appears we have, I guess, what people might call a quorum, right? So we have 22 people out of. Does anybody know how many people we have in the course? I don't know if people have bothered to look this information up, but I'll just quickly check. So out of 81 minus the non-students, we have 78. That's not bad. Well, it is bad actually. We have 28% of the class. We're thinning the head here. The past interactions we've had, we were hovering around 33%. So I'm wondering what's happening here. Okay, so, but anyway, that's fine. So the rules here is, we'll keep it short and simple, right? I've decided to come up with some sort of schedule that we're going to follow, right? It's as follows. The agenda for today is simple, right? We're going to follow through these few things. First, I want to get a sense of why very few individuals are actually accessing the resources on the Moodle, right? If there's a problem, I would like you people to let me know. And then we'll quickly just go through a short summary of what has been dumped onto the Moodle and on the YouTube playlist. So the screencasts and the notes. And then I'd really love to hear your feedback on the resources themselves. And then we'll have like a short Q&A session. If you have concerns about the screencasts that have been shared and the notes and things of that nature, then that will be the time for you to raise your concerns. And then I'll just give us a quick rundown of the next batch of screencasts, right? Which is like, I don't know if this is unit 3 or 4 or something, or maybe 5, system software. And then we'll have like any other business type of arrangement here. Okay, great. So again, the ground rules are simple. If you want to ask me a question, feel free to interrupt. You don't want to type the question in the chat here, right? Because I won't see it. Yeah. So just unmute your microphone and then interrupt me, right? If you want to stop me or something, otherwise I'll just continue ranting or something, right? If you are one of those unfortunate individuals that or whose microphone is not working and you cannot speak through the microphone, what you want to do is type in the chat and hope that one of your colleagues is going to ask the question on your behalf. So what I'm saying is everybody should be on the lookout for the chat here to try and see if there are people that have questions and are unable to use their microphones, right? Okay, great. I wanted to start off by, I'm curious here, right? You know, I've mentioned, I think I mentioned from the onset that is what you want to do is you want to make sure that you keep up with the pace here. We haven't yet started cruising, but very soon these things are going to pile up, right? By our estimate, I think we should be able to transition to lecture series number 6 after next week. You know, so you want to make sure that you keep up. And I'm raising this because what we've noticed, right? If we scroll through the Moodle and we try and quickly do a quick check of how many people are actually accessing the resources, it turns out that only a few people are accessing resources. And so the question for us is, why? Why, right? Does anybody have an answer for that? Why is it that very few people are accessing resources? And in case people are wondering, say, what is this guy talking about? What I'm going to do here is, I guess for the benefit of the lecture series we're looking at, which is computer software, let's do something really interesting. Lighton is going to use a whole bunch of computer software applications, right? To try and showcase to you what he's talking about. So the first thing he's going to do is he's going to log on to Moodle, which we discovered from the application software unit that is, it's a web-based application, right? So you don't necessarily have to install it on your computer. And no, I know what you're thinking about. Oh, but what about the Moodle app, Lighton? That's a special case, I guess. Fundamentally, the piece of software that you access, this thing we're calling the Moodle, is sitting somewhere on some server infrastructure out there, right? The Moodle application that you've installed on your machine or on your phone is no different from the browser. It's a host that you use to gain access to the actual application. So Lighton is going to log on to the Moodle, is already logged on. And what Lighton is going to do is he's going to use a very interesting Moodle feature, right? That allows him to check logs associated with the course, right? And what Lighton is going to do is he is going to download all the logs, yeah? He will download them to his local machine, right, as a CSV. Boom. I hope you're following. Am I still online? Hello? No answer. Yes, sir.
Yes, we get you.
Great. Okay. So Lighton is going to download this spreadsheet. And it's quite huge here. I should have filtered out the stuff here. If you notice here, it's about 12 megabytes in size. So Lighton is going to open up this. He's going to open up the logs. And what Lighton is doing is he's using a desktop application, which is a spreadsheet application, right? Called LibreImpress. No, sorry, not LibreImpress, but LibreOffice Calc, right? You do have a whole bunch of funny things here, like, is this going to work, I wonder? He's downloaded the CSV file, right? The comma-separated values file, CSV. And I guess it's taking a bit of time here. I wonder why. Ah, shit. Okay, what Lighton is going to do is he's going to attempt to do this using something else. Hopefully this works. And this is the thing with live demos, right? The woes of live demos. So what Lighton is going to do now is Lighton is going to attempt to import this. He's going to use a spreadsheet application, but because the desktop application is wanting to use is misbehaving, what Lighton has decided to do is decided to, there we go. He's decided to use a web-based application called Google Sheets, right? So Lighton is going to import that CSV file. This is silly, really. And again, here's the interesting thing. Something that's going to come up on system software here is this issue of checking processes associated with applications, right? So what Lighton is doing now is trying to see if he can kill the process that's hanging right now, right? Not kill all, but I'll just say kill. So he's using a feature that's similar to Task Manage on Windows, right? So he's going to close all the applications that were hanging. Then you notice here that he's uploaded the CSV file, which is here, And I do hope, let's hope and pray here, this is going to work. Okay, there's an option for Google Sheets. I hope this works. So you notice what I'm walking us through is something similar to what's in the notes, where we have scenarios, right? Scenarios trying to highlight key tools that one would find themselves using, depending on what sort of activity they're interested in performing. So you notice the logs I'm talking about here. These are the logs here. Ooh, okay. And these logs don't have, I was stupid. Okay, but that's fine. I was trying to exclude individuals that are not associated with the teacher or editing teacher or non-editing teacher role. So if you look at these logs, right? When you're checking for logs on Moodle, using the Moodle application, you can choose to filter out, you can choose to filter out certain individuals. So you can choose to say you want to pull out information associated with participants. That would be like the students, right? People with the student role. But what I'm doing now is I'm pulling all activities, including my own activities. So observe, right? If I say I want to just do a quick check of, and I hope this will work here. Jesus, it's okay. So it's a lot of rows. You notice I'm on row number 57,912. I don't know if you can see here. Maybe I'll just quickly zoom in. I know this is revision from Media 1020, but I apologize for that. But I'm just trying to highlight something here. So the activity I'm performing here, the task is I'm trying to get a sense of how many people are using Moodle. To what extent are you guys using Moodle, right? Out of the 78 students, how many are active, right? Which resources have actually been accessed by the students? This is what I'm trying to do. So I'm using a spreadsheet application called Google Sheets. Google Sheets is similar to LibreOffice Calc. It's similar to Microsoft Office Excel, right? These are all spreadsheet applications. There's a whole bunch of spreadsheet applications out there. Zoho Office has their own version of a spreadsheet application, right? So there's so many out there. Take your pick, whatever works for you. I prefer to use Google Sheets or LibreOffice Calc, right? Depending on what sort of tasks I'm using or I'm playing around with. Just do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do in the rows here is I'm going to say I want to pull the event name, or perhaps not the event name actually. If you look at these things here, and I know most of these, most of the actions most of the things we're looking at right now, they are going to be introduced to you in EDU 1020, I believe, if they haven't yet been introduced to you. So I'm trying to check for event context, course page, zip archive. I'm going to use this field here, event context, right? I'm just going to go back here, and I'll say go to pull event context. Sorry, it's a lot of rows there, 57,000, which is why it's a bit slow. So I'll say event context, right? Yeah, so these are the different things that you found on Moodle, right? And then I will say under values, I want to pull the user full name, and I'll count, right? And then on the filter, right? If you're not following through with this, don't worry. I just want to, I'm just trying to emphasize that depending on the task that you're performing, you might find yourself using a whole bunch of tools, right? Like Lighton right now has used a number of tools. He's using Chrome web browser. He's using Google Sheets. He attempted to use LibreOffice Calc. He used the PS utility, right, to list the number of the different processes on the machine, right? He used the kill command to kill the application, the problematic application, which was LibreOffice Calc, right? So a whole range of tools in one session, one activity, right? And then I'm going to filter here, and then I'm just going to say I want to filter by event context. Great. Hopefully it's going to come up there soon. Come on. Okay, so if you notice, guys, right? What I'm talking about is what you're seeing in column number A here. You notice, have you seen these things here? And this is the thing here. Maybe I should count unique, not count.
So there's someone who is also presenting. It's an obstruction.
Who the hell is presenting as well? I don't know. If you're presenting, do you want to stop presenting, please? Is that fine now?
It's fine. It's
Hello?
fine, sir. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we're gonna go back, right? And by the way, it's good to experiment with these things. You want to play around with presenting. How does presenting work? It's fine, but obviously you don't want to do that during a live session like we have right now. Now observe, right? What I'm looking at here is the number of unique people that have accessed these resources. If we're saying we have, and I'm going to have to exclude these assignments, these take-home assignments, because there's remnants from last year, right? I'm just going to pull them out. Don't worry about that. All right, I'm just going to say okay here. Great. So my concern, my worry is simple, really. If you look at the result, the refresh result, right? You remember if these activities are associated to what you see on Moodle, right? If you go to the homepage, what I've extracted are things associated to these things here, yeah? Announcements, this video here, these notes, you understand, yeah? This is what I've pulled. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a sense of how many people are actually accessing these resources using application software. This is worrying.
So,
yes?
We are seeing you, not what you're presenting, actually.
No, oh, okay. I think it's because somebody else had shared the, okay, is that fine?
It's a blank screen with you. Yeah, anyway, it's fine.
What do you mean it's fine? I wanted to see what I'm seeing.
I'm not seeing what you're presenting. You've turned off.
I can see what you're presenting.
What? No, what do you mean? What can you see? Somebody saying I can see what you're presenting and is whispering.
Your laptop cast screen.
Okay.
Visible.
It's
Okay,
very
so
visible.
Okay, so you can see these file notes and whatnot, right?
Yes, everything. Leandro.
Oh, I can now see it.
Perfect. So my concern is this, right? If you look at the notes, for the notes, maybe this makes sense. What this shows us, right? If you look at row number 18 here, what this shows us is that only 48 people out of the 78 have accessed these notes, right? Out of 78. Now this is a problem, right? Because that's only like 61% of the class. And I guess, let me just see here. And I guess this is the people that don't follow the rules, right? They're logging in with their own random accounts, which is why I have to admit them there. The concern here, right, is that, garbage. The concern here, right, is as we're going down here, if you go to, which quiz were we writing the other time? Oh my goodness. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say 78, and then I'm going to say this is equal to that divided by this. Don't worry, this doesn't have to make sense, right? Don't worry, this doesn't have to make sense. I'll explain just now.
Sorry, just to interrupt you, is this
Please.
part of computer software?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm using computer software, right, to do this. So it is part of computer software. So is Google Meet, right? It's a piece of software, yeah, I suppose. Yes, it is. But you're not going to be examining. This is probably going to be a part of video 1020, like formulas in Excel and whatnot. There's nothing fancy here. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll down the formula here so that you get a sense of what I'm talking about here, right? Now, I'm concerned here. If you look at things like, for the notes, it makes sense, right? Because we uploaded them a long time ago. So roughly 61% of the class has accessed the notes, right? For lecture series number 5, which is good, right? But if we start scrolling down here, if we go to, let's say, the screencast that Lighton has recently posted, and I'm going to go down to 5. Look at this. Oh, not that. Look at this, right? Have you seen the highlighted row?
Yes.
Only 20% of the class have accessed the most recent screencast, right? And I'm wondering why that's the case. I'm wondering why. I'm trying to get a sense of why people are not accessing these resources. Yeah. The funny thing though is that there's almost a 90% what do you call this, engagement rate when you look at the quiz. This is what we're expecting, and I guess because there are marks here, so 88% of the class attempted the quiz, which is good, right? But if you look at the most recent notes, people are not reading these notes. So this is what I wanted to highlight here, and so I'm wondering, and my question is, why, right? Does anyone have an explanation? If you're one of those characters who hasn't yet accessed the notes here, not that you're going to be penalized, but do you have an explanation for why you haven't yet watched the screencast?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's the explanation? Well, somebody said yes. So what's the explanation?
Oh, sometimes it's obviously data problems. It's not every time that we have data bundles, and mostly, sir, these YouTube things require a lot of data for you to watch. So in the end, we miss out, sir. That's what I can say, according to me. That's my reason.
Yeah, well, but come for, you're an outlier, right? I mean, so that's 1 out of 78 people. What about the others? Is the consensus bundles? Is it bundles? Now, I know you are the same characters who probably go out there and you start sharing 100 megabytes of WhatsApp videos, right? But you're saying you don't have data bundles. This is a funny thing going on here. And I'm trying to understand. But anyway, okay, that's fine. I guess we should thank MTN for generating content. Maybe we'll try and see if we can start hosting these files, these large files on Moodle, right? I don't know if you've heard, you can now access Moodle for free on the MTN network, but that's part of the any other business. All right, thank you for that. Great, so next bit here is just a brief rundown of what we did in the lecture screencast for the benefit of those that, I guess those that watched the screencast. We did quite a bit of stuff here, right? And if you've seen the most recent slides, you probably gain an appreciation of the fact that the number of slides has increased dramatically, right? There's a lot of content in there. In fact, we've been toying around with the idea of trying to perhaps break up these slides. We have 138 slides, right? So bottom line is we've covered quite a bit. We started off by just briefly looking at just the obvious. This was like revision from high school. You know, what are the fundamental differences between hardware and software, right? And what relationships exist between hardware and software. We know this by now. Yeah. So trivial things like you know, software directs hardware and all those funny things, right? And then we actually went on a lengthy chart, a brief chart on how software is constructed, right? And you know, these different instances, this whole notion of abstraction was popping up, right? I don't know if you noticed this. It's going to continue coming up until it sinks in, because it turns out that as we are discussing these subsequent topics, right, we'll be really drilling down to the lower levels of abstraction associated with this thing we're calling a computer system, right? And I thought this particular slide was a great way of summarizing what we're going to be doing here, right? So if you notice our discussion, we are currently here. We briefly, under system software, we're going to talk a little bit about language translators, right? And compilers are a form or a type of language translators. And then we spend a considerable amount of time to gain an appreciation of what the operating system does, the role it plays. And then at some stage, during our discussion of computer architecture, we look at the instruction set architecture, right? So levels of abstraction. As you're going up here, you're abstracting this computer system much, much more. As you're moving down, you're really looking at the lower levels of abstraction, right? So hopefully that was very clear, right? We went through a very brief chart on how software is designed. And again, we brought up this whole notion of low-level programming languages and low-level programming languages. And again, emphasize the fact that our definition of high and low-level programming languages is really from the perspective of abstraction. We provided examples of high-level programming languages, just simple examples. Again, I emphasize the fact that you don't have to know those those things I was showcasing in the screencast, right? Although it's nice to know what's happening, right? But in terms of abstraction, we're saying that high-level programming languages are typically used by human beings. Sorry, the kids outside are making noises. Give me a second, let me close the window. Right, so again, on the issue of high-level and low-level programming languages, when you talk about high-level programming languages, you're just referring to notations that are typically used by human beings, things that you can easily read and understand, yeah? So if you look at this, even if you have no knowledge of programming, but if you read the word swap and temp, you already have an idea as to what that is all about. Compare and contrast with something like JR, or even worse still, if you start looking at these ones and zeros, they don't make sense. Why? Because low-level representation is reserved for the machine, the hardware. This is what the machine interprets. The program will write a program using this. The language translators will be used to translate it into a form that a computer will be able to understand, and then the computer will actually work with this, the ones and zeros. Abstraction. So whenever you see high-level programming language, it doesn't mean that it's more powerful, it's better than a low-level language, yeah? No, it simply means a high-level language abstracts a native machine code much, much more than a low-level programming language, yeah? And again, I provided examples to do with assembly. I said the closest you can get to the machine code is assembly language code. In fact, we went in depth to highlight an example. So if you look at the machine language code here, each one of these individual lines can be translated into an exact mapping of what the machine looks at or is able to interpret, right? The ones and zeros. So, I mean, forget this hexadecimal representation, but this is what the machine will look at. For MIPS, 32 bits of ones and zeros representing the instruction, right? Again, this is just associated with abstraction, right? And then, well, we just briefly touched on something that is going to be a 4-year course called computer software, right? You're going to be taught how to develop software, right? But we just briefly glossed over this whole notion of the software development life cycle, SDLC. So the processes or the phases that typical programmers or software developers would have to go through in order for them to develop software, right? All right, and then we highlighted or emphasized the fact that these things we are calling software are specific to specified hardware architectures and operating systems. And I gave a ton of examples trying to highlight the fact that a piece of software meant for a machine, such as Android, right, cannot be used or cannot be installed on a laptop like the one Lighton is using right now. Why? Because the hardware architecture for this is different when compared to the hardware architecture of Lighton's laptop. Yeah, hope that makes sense. Same goes for operating system. This runs Android, although Android is a fork of...
We are unable to see what you are presenting.
Oh, I thought you were seeing my image somewhere on the right here. Well, I left the presentation, but I was trying to highlight this. If you look at the email, I was trying to show you the... Can you see my smartphone? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Probably not. Right. Okay. So software is meant for specific hardware architecture. It's meant for specific operating systems. And true to that, you cannot say I'm going to download Microsoft Office and then I'll install it on Linux. I mean, it's possible. You can probably find workarounds if you have an emulator or something, but you can't directly do it. Why? Because Office meant for Windows is meant for a Windows operating system. You cannot install it on Linux or Red Hat, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And I gave an example of LibreOffice, for instance, where if you are going to install this on Windows, you have to choose the binary for Windows, right? If you're installing it on Linux or Ubuntu, you choose the one for Ubuntu. And even better yet, if you look at the Debian file here, the file called DB here, which is meant for Ubuntu, you notice that there are two versions. There's this x86_64 and x86. The x86 is meant for a 32-bit hardware architecture. The x86_64 is meant for a 64-bit hardware architecture, right? In as much as you can install a 32-bit, you can install 32-bit software on a 64-bit hardware architecture. You cannot install, at least as I checked, you cannot install 64-bit software on a 32-bit hardware architecture. These are important things that we need to take into account. Yeah, and then we started our discussion of application software. We went on a run to it. It's a path. I guess it's the furthest path up the mountaintop here, where we looked at the broad range of application software, mobile applications, desktop-based applications, web-based applications like Moodle, right? We looked at add-ons, right? And in my screencast, I showcased add-ons that are specific to things like Google Slides, right? If you look at the add-on tab in Google Slides, you see those things here.
Finally, I liked more on how to extend the functionality of application software such as Opera Mini and the web browser.
Oh, right. I mean, so, well, Opera Mini is a web browser, right? But so the thing with, so the easy answer here is that I don't know about Opera Mini because I don't use Opera Mini myself. I use Chrome, which is a web browser itself. But the way you extend the Chrome web browser, if you looked at the, what do you call this? If you looked at the screencast that I produced, is I showcased the example. I showed you guys that if you look at if you're looking at my screen right now, you notice this strip up here. Can you see this? Okay, I'll use vocal screen because you can't, maybe it's too small. Just a minute. Again, I'm using a different type of application because I want to magnify. Yeah, I want to magnify what I want. Can you see this strip here? The K.
Yes,
yeah, the K,
yes.
this audio button, the printer, Grammarly, these are all browser extensions that I've installed as part of my browser. They don't come with Chrome by default. For me to be able to extend Chrome's functionality, right, I install these browsers and they do a whole range of things. Yeah, so these are the things we're calling add-ons. Depending on the type of application you're using, it may be referred to as an add-on. It may be referred to as an extension. So if you look at this piece of software that I've just opened up here, called VLC, which I hope most people use, and I know I'm jumping up and down. Don't worry, these things will make sense. If you have a question, pause. There's a Q&A session just now. But if I go under Tools, and then I go to Preferences, not Preferences, if I go under Plugins and Extensions, you notice that VLC calls these small little, please switch off the mic, thank you. If I go under Plugins and Extensions, VLC also allows me to install a broad range of extensions. You see this, it says Add-on Manager. It even shows me the list of active extensions. I don't have one extension installed here as part of it. I think this allows me to work with subtitles or something as part of VLC. So, but I also gave an example of something else, and I'm going to, a shameless plug here, guys. I gave an example of, oh, this is taking time here. I'll just switch off magnification for now. And this is not working out, is it? Okay, it's not working. Okay, I gave an example of, maybe this will work, perfect. I gave an example of my blog, my personal blog, which runs off a content management system called WordPress, right? In WordPress, they are called they are called plugins. So this is WordPress. If you scroll down here, what you're seeing as I gave an example of this tweet stream. This is because of the plugin. This is because of the plugin. So I'm able to extend the functionality of WordPress by installing plugins, and installing plugins really is quite easy. Right? Listen, we're not really looking at how to install plugins, but some of these things make sense when you showcase demos, right? I was hoping I could log into my WordPress so that I show you how to install. I'm going to log in here, how to install extensions or plugins, WordPress plugins. Right, so but fundamentally though, what you're saying is you're enhancing the whole idea behind extensions, add-ons, plugins, is to enhance the functionality of an already existing piece of software, right? And I can't log in here. I'm wondering why, but anyway, it's fine. I guess it doesn't want to work now. Such a shame that it can't work. But anyway, so this whole idea around plugins is you want to enhance the functionality of a piece of application. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense because if you think of a generic application like like Chrome, for instance, or Microsoft Word, or Microsoft Office, it's used by different types of people that do different types of work, like secretaries, students, lecturers, accountants, right? So an accountant might want to use a spreadsheet application for something different from a lecturer or a student. What we're saying is that for them to be able to make maximum use of such an application, what they can do is they can download add-ons, plugins, extensions. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so, but we did a lot as well. We showcased, or we highlighted the fact that there are also scripts, right? The example I showed you last time where I said, oh, let me just go to my thing, right? So where I said, oh, Lighton is I'm just going to do this. Don't worry about some of these things. If they don't make sense, it's fine. Use that. So let's say if we highlighted the fact that for scripts, these are typically used by power users. So people like systems admin, right? People that want to perform ad hoc tasks. People that are interested in automating ad hoc tasks, right? Repetitive tasks, right? So if I wanted to count files in my Dropbox folder, right? I'll just write a simple script. I'll just say for file in here, right? This is all you're doing, right? List everything, and then you say echo file, right? Done, right? And then that was silly, right? Stupid. Do that, and then I'm listing all the files. I can do much more. I can say for each file, I want to get the descriptive information associated with the file, right? This stuff here. Instead of echo, I'll just say list that, so that I see the information associated with the files, the owner, the size of the file, the date when it was created, right? The name of the file, yeah, the year when it was created. So you notice that if I wanted to perform some really interesting analysis on my Dropbox folder, like how many folders do I have, when was each folder created, I can easily write a script. A script is lines of instructions, right? That form this program that you'd refer to as a script. We also introduced this notion of software libraries.
Sorry for disturbing, but I think most of us are so lost right now.
Okay, that's fine. But that's fine. It's just the reason you're lost, right, Francis, is because now Francis, the class rep, Lighton is going to use application software called Moodle again, right? My God. And you notice here, I'd logged into WordPress, by the way. I can go to plugins and then I can install plugins and add new plugins and look at the plugins installed. But anyway, Lighton is going to use the web-based application called Moodle to name and shame Francis, the class rep. And here's fingers crossed to see if we can name and shame Francis. What Lighton is going to do is try and see why Francis is lost. It's likely that Francis has not watched the screencast associated with application software. So what Lighton is going to do is going to filter down to application software. Let's see, Francis. And I'm not deliberately naming and shaming. Although I'm naming and shaming you, Francis, it's nothing personal here. We're having fun here. But I'm trying to, again, move around and showcase how useful these things we're calling software is, right? Forget about this crap you're calling, what do they call it now? This TikTok, right? That machine learning application. That's garbage, right? You should think about these big and more complex software tools. I know some of you think TikTok is important, but I'm just saying that there's something more than TikTok, right? What is this? Francis, you haven't watched screencast the screencast associated with that. Which is why you are lost, Francis, right? Anyway. So these are all things that that we really have to think about, right? Hopefully, this rundown here Makes sense, right? So this is what we did in the screencasts that were shared, right? We looked at hardware versus software, computer software in perspective, and then we spent a considerable amount of time looking at the different subcategories of application software. Observe, very soon, once we're done with system software, we'll get to a stage where we'll be here. We'll come to this stage. We want to understand the relationship that exists between all these different things up to here. Come on. Wow. We want to get to a stage where we understand this, guys. This is a bigger picture associated with software. We are studying computer software. We went to discuss application software, right? Very soon, right? Screencasts are going to be shared this week, actually. Associated with system software. System software is further subcategorized into firmware, operating systems, language translators, utility programs. Application software has desktop-based applications, portable applications, web-based applications, cloud-based applications, plugins, software libraries, scripts, whatever the hell you want to call these different things. So these are things we are trying to do. And in fact, if you want, you can even further subcategorize these other things. Language translators fall under assemblers, disassemblers, compilers, decompilers, interpreters, right? All these different things. Operating systems, different types of operating systems, Unix-like operating systems. Linux is a Unix-like operating system. Unix-like operating systems have subcategories, Ubuntu, Red Hat, right? Debian. So these are things this is what we're trying to do, trying to get an appreciation of what software is. And by the way, there's an even bigger picture. Next year, you begin learning how to create these things we're calling software. Even though the emphasis, you begin learning how to create software, and then in third year, you are taught how to develop software. How do you plan to develop software, right? So there's there's a method to the madness. Don't think that we are doing this just because there's an exam coming. We are doing this because we want to be able to understand Introduction to Programming 2010 next year, 20 next year, which is software engineering and project management, right? And then finally, at fourth year, we get to work on a capstone project, which in part might involve you developing some piece of useful software. Even better, at third year, you get to do educational technology, where you get to study a particular domain-specific class of application software that is used to enhance or to make teaching and learning more effective. Do you understand this, right? So now that we are done with that, guys, Lighton has questions for you. Do you have feedback on the resources first before we go to the query and answer session, where you get to complain if you have, or ask questions if you have questions? But do you have any concerns and comments with regards to the resources that have been shared so far? So I'm interested in hearing thoughts about maybe something that you think is missing from the notes or the screencast. Is the pace too fast for you? Is the pace too slow for you? Or anything random? So the floor is open. Are you even there?
We're here, sir.
Pace is too fast.
Yeah. Oh, they say something. No, class rep Thelma. What are you saying? What do you mean the okay? That's one person. The pace is too fast. How many people think the pace is too fast here? Here's a quick thing. What Lighton is going to do it. Yes, pause.
I also think the pace is too fast.
Pause. All 32 of you, if you think that the pace is too fast, we're going to try something. We're going to use this piece of software to collect feedback, and then Lighton is going to use the spreadsheet application software to analyze the feedback later on. So I'm going to ask, those of you that think that the pace is too fast, type 1 in the chat. All right, that's good. So you're going to, if you think the pace is too fast, you type 1. Okay, great. That's good. All right. What I'm going to further do really is I'm going to set up a very short quiz of feedback. What I want to start doing, it appears we'll need to start collecting feedback associated with the different with the different units that we're covering. So one of the things I'm going to be asking is your subjective views on whether you've understood the particular unit and whether the pace is too fast. So if it's too fast, then we'll put on the brakes slightly. And if you've noticed, by the way, I've already put on the brakes. If you look at our calendar, right, later on we'll move to another piece of web-based application called Google Calendar, right? If you look at our calendar, what we were supposed to do this, and what Lighton is going to do is going to filter down to ICT 11, the kind of ICT 1110. Oh, shoot. Okay, so if you notice, what we were supposed to do this week is Lighton was supposed to share screencasts for system software. But I mean, I got apprehensive because when I analyzed the data, right, it was pointing at the fact that people had not yet watched or read the notes associated with application software. So I've already slowed down the pace, right? We're trying to assess progress and try and see if we can further slow down the pace, right? But we don't want to overdo things here, right? Because we want to, you see, if I were you, I would aim to understand this course. And I would aim to understand this course if I am remotely interested in utilizing some of these skills. So if you see your future career path to be aligned with anything to do with computing, I would understand this course because it actually presents to you the fundamentals of computing, how computers work. This is what we're doing in this course, right? So we shall put on the brakes depending on what sort of feedback we shall get, but don't overreach here. Don't think that, we'll further put on the brakes. We don't want to, to overdo this, right? And this is, guys, I don't know what's happening with my my web browser. I think it's being overloaded by a number of things. I'm going to have to close. Oh, another piece of software that Lighton uses is Doodlepole, right? Go to doodle.com, sign up, and very nice way of collecting anonymous feedback. All right, great. So any other concerns about feedback here? What else in terms of the resources? Are the resources enough?
For
Yes,
me, they're just okay.
Okay, I was going to, because so the other way of looking at this is for computer software, do you think that 138 slides is too little? We can add more content if you want, right? We can actually we shall attach more resources if you want. It turns out that the slides alone are not sufficient, which is why this piece of thing, the last slide here, you see this? You want to make sure that you again read these things. These are important auxiliary or supplementary materials. Any other concerns about the resources? I'm looking at the time here. People are complaining about bundles. Okay, if there's no feedback, it appears there's no feedback here, and I don't know what's happening here. Before you know it, you have characters complaining in the sidelines, right? Why? Okay, interesting enough, guys, right? So I'm coordinating 3020, which is software engineering and project management, and one of the projects that the students are going to be working on is they'll be developing a piece of software that is meant to elicit anonymous feedback from students that are too shy to highlight the fact that, oh no, this course, the pace is too fast. They think that they're going to be ostracized if they come out in the open and signal the fact that they feel uncomfortable or something. So I thought I would mention that. All right, so now is the question and answer session. And I mentioned that there were people that had concerns with regards to the issue of abstraction. You can put it there. If you have questions to do with lecture series number 5 or abstraction, please ask away.
So I have a question.
So,
okay, the first one can speak.
You talked of the quiz. Now I didn't get one thing clear. The next quiz will be based on what? Based on. Let's see. Abstraction.
So,
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted here. Again, quiz number 3 is going to be based on lecture series number 4, which is abstraction in computing.
Okay.
Right? And guys, come on, you guys are smart, right? If you notice, quiz is going to be equal to lecture number minus 1. So quiz number 1 was based on was based on lecture 2, right? Quiz number 2 was based on lecture 3. You understand? So you don't have to ask, but if you want to, you can ask anyway. But quiz number 3 is going to be based on lecture number 4. Does this make sense?
Right. Yes.
So the method to the madness. Yes, sir.
I think you should add the screencast also for abstraction. I'm not finding any.
Well, that's because, yeah, so that's because that's because the abstraction to computing was an in-class session, and I don't know. I think that the recording was botched somehow. I could be wrong, but I'll try and check. Come on, it was a short lecture here. You don't mean to tell me you need the screencast for that. I'll try and see if I can find the recording. If I do find it, I'll upload it. If I don't, then you're going to have to make do with the notes.
I say so because it was between classes. I was held between classes, whether to attend ICT or art. You just called in a class in the morning. So
okay,
that's why I asked.
All right, I'll try and see if I can. If I do find it, I'll add it there.
All right.
Any other question? Thelma, you wanted to say something, I think, on abstraction as well. And there was somebody also asked about abstraction. Please ask.
Well, my elementary material, you can just add it on.
Sorry, come again. You're whispering here. I don't know why you're whispering, but could you shout? Shout!
I was saying, if you have any other supplementary material that you feel like will help us in the quiz, because
Okay, all right. I'll do that.
I also didn't understand abstraction, so I was thinking maybe you can just like upload.
Okay, I'll do that. Listen, this whole notion of abstraction is centered around simplicity, trying to simplify complex concepts. And it turns out that you don't just apply abstraction to computing alone. You can apply abstraction to different types of things, right? So if what we're doing is we're saying, if we go with our case study application, our case study computer system, which is a Moodle tablet, what we're saying is, as we are studying this Moodle tablet, at some stage we're going to have to understand what's inside this Moodle tablet, right? These things we're calling the CPU, the memory components, and the buses. But before we can do that, we just want to have a feel or to just try and understand the superficial things associated with a Moodle tablet. Like, for instance, the Moodle tablet has a touch screen that I use for me to interact with it, right? To scroll, buttons to adjust the volume. But we know that behind the scenes, there's something much more happening.
Okay, may I have a question?
Yes, ask.
So, according to the notes on abstraction, I don't know if it's abstraction, yeah. All I saw was diagrams. I don't know how to expect questions from me. So, do you have any samples of the questions like any example?
Yeah, the examples are on the Moodle. The examples are on the Moodle. They are assessments from last year. What are you talking about? Again, I'll go to Moodle here, right? I'll go to Moodle. I'll go to Moodle and then and I'm laughing because I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I find it funny, really, to be honest. But I guess I don't know. Maybe I don't know why this is taking time. There are sample questions from last year on the Moodle, right? Sorry about that. My computer is a bit slow here today. I don't know why. I think I have a whole bunch of things open. Yes.
What is the law of abstraction in terms of programming languages? What does it, the law express in programming languages?
Well, it has various roles, right? So one of the things is simplicity, right? A programmer is better able to write efficient code. Is able to actually program software effectively if they use a high-level language, as opposed to using a low-level language. Here's the thing. Quick question for you, right? If and I'm not seeing the people, I haven't mastered your voices, so I don't know who was asking here. But if I go to our example of application software, I'll quickly scroll up to. Come on. I'll quickly scroll down up to the part that has high-level languages and low-level languages. Here's a question to you. Which one do you think, even if you don't know how to program, what is easier for you to understand? What is on this slide, right? These things in black here and white, right?
So I can't see what you're doing.
Oh, sorry, sorry. I'll have to present this again. Thank you for that. Yeah, fidgeting around different pieces of software here. We should bring a question to say what different applications are used by Lighton when you have a live query and answer session during the COVID-19 pandemic or some crap like that. But observe, for you, even if you don't know how to program, right? Which one is more intuitive for you? These things on the slide, these things in black and black background and white font face here, or these ones and zeros? Which one is a lot easier? Do you think this is a lot easier to understand than this?
No, yeah, black background.
Exactly, right? So, in terms
And
of
zeros
programming language,
understand.
exactly. And in fact, it turns out that even experienced programmers find ones and zeros and even assembly language difficult to understand, which is why they'll abstract what they want a computer to do by using something they can easily understand. So that is one role that abstraction plays when we're talking about programming languages. Do you understand this? Simplicities, trying to simplify a concept.
Okay, I've understood on that.
Okay, any other questions, guys?
Any other questions? Let's see. What is the duration for the next quiz?
You see that the problem here, right? What you should have done, if I were you, is before this session, I would have planned. Lighton and the third years use a very interesting tool for planning, project planning called Libre, Project Libre, right? With Project Libre, you can do a whole bunch of project planning. I just thought I would showcase to you another different type of application that allows you to, boom, plan, right? Come up with a nice plan like this, the Gantt chart. So the person who was saying, let me see here, what you should be doing going forward is you prepare your questions beforehand so that when it's time for the Q&A session, you just raise your hand. Sorry, what was the question?
Question, sir. So you need to download the application first, right? Then that's when you make your timetable, right?
Which application?
Project Libre.
Yeah, so for Project Libre, yes. Why? Because Project Libre is a desktop-based application. So I need to, yeah. And in case people are interested here, so there's a lot of moving parts to Project Libre. Number one, it's a desktop-based application. Yeah. What that means is that I have to install it on my computer. Of course, there are other ways of installing this. Like for instance, I can download the jar file and then I can just run it without installing it. But I need to install it, so I've installed it. Right. That's one moving part. Another way of looking at it is it's a GUI-based application. So there's a graphical user interface that you use to interact with a piece of software. Point and click compare and contrast with terminal-based applications. Like, you remember last time when I showcased you guys links, yeah? Where I said that don't think that you can just browse using a web browser, right? You can browse using the terminal, right? So Lighton is browsing here using links on the terminal, right? But yeah, so these are all things to think about. Another interesting thing to think about when you're discussing Project Libre here is the fact that it's implemented using the Java programming language, so the programmers that wrote Project Libre use Java to write the piece of software, yeah? Because Java is a hybrid-based application, you have to, once they wrote the piece of software, they use the Java compiler to convert it into an executable that is later on, I guess, interpreted by the Java virtual machine, right? JVM. But anyway, so these are all different things to think about as we're talking about software. Are there any other concerns?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You said last time I asked you if you could get software from the DC Hub, and the tutorial of how to get to it is kind of, it's quick, it's fast, it's somewhat complicated for me. So,
what you should do, Riando, is, hey, guys, please tell the truth here. How many of you have played a video by slowing it down? I know I have. I've raised up my hand. How many have done that?
I've done it before.
Yes, thank you very much. So if you look at, and I have VLC open here. With VLC, we had a talk yesterday. We recorded it and it's on YouTube. We use YouTube web-based application. I can slow it down. You see this down? I don't know. I'll have to use vocal screen to magnify the area that I'm talking about. You see, with VLC, as I'm playing back, and I'll mute this, but as I'm playing back, if I notice that the speaker was too quick, for instance, when they're presenting, and I'm playing back this thing, I can notice the magnified screen. I can say, I'm going to slow it down so that if the speaker is too fast and then you slow it down, the speaker will be slower, right? And then you can easily follow through. Does that help, Leander?
Yes, sir. Yes, it does.
Thank you. Great. Are there any other concerns?
And just with the question that Leandro came up in terms of accessing the DC Hub, I tried with the same you gave us, the list.tunza.zm1209, 1209. It's not working. Maybe is it going to work?
Yeah, that's because. So for now, the configuration, we have to check and see if we can alter the configurations. Last time I checked, and I can check right now actually. Last time I checked, we couldn't connect because the configuration were altered to just allow the hub to be accessible within the UNZA network. But Lighton will open a DC++ client software called Linux, DC++, direct connect client, and then Lighton will try and verify what Patrick was saying using a piece of software called Linux DC++. And what Lighton is going to do is going to connect to the list hub. I don't know if you can see here. I'll magnify again using vocal screen. You see this? Lighton is going to connect to the hub here, list.unza.zm:1209. Boom. Connect. Okay, so you're right. I'll have to look it up. You notice that I connected and then I was disconnected. So I'll have to look it up. I think configurations need to be altered. But when you're on the UNZA network, it's meant to work just fine. I'll look it up. A word of caution though. The whole idea behind the DC hub is for you not to, for you to be able to use it on the UNZA network, because you want to take advantage of you want to take advantage of the local area network. If you access the hub from home and you're downloading a 1 GB file, you use up 1 GB of your bundles. But if you're doing this on the UNZA network, you do this for free, right? So take note. Any other questions? Okay, I'm looking at the time here. If there are no questions, guys. Sorry.
So I have a question concerning
Yes,
on
please.
the slides that we were given, which we downloaded from the Moodle. Some part, like when you're about just to finish them, there is where it shows some diagrams, and one of them was on logic gates. So are you going to explain that in the next session?
Which lecture series is that?
I don't know, the next one, or you
I think it's on, maybe it's on abstraction, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, it should be on abstraction. You see what I was doing, I don't know if, yes.
Are we going to be accessed? Are we going to be assessed on those logic? I saw logic gates on abstraction and other stuff. So I'm wondering if you will be going to be accessed, because
No, not now, later on. Those are, I was highlighting examples. If you look at the slides, right? These slides on abstraction. What I was highlighting was, I was building up on like this whole notion of abstraction to say, if we use what we are studying right now as an example, we are saying we're interested in studying a computer, but it turns out that this computer, we started off by defining what a computer is. Oh, it accepts input, processes, stores, and produces output, yada, yada, yada. What we're saying is a computer does much more behind the scenes, and we're abstracting the complexity associated with a computer. What are we abstracting? We're abstracting these different layers, right? We're abstracting how computer software works in relation to a computer system, how the OS works, right? So this is what I was saying here. So the functionality of a computer can be broken down to the core components, which is just input, output, central processing unit, and the memory unit. You know, this I/O unit as well, at this stage, we're abstracting. Why? Because we know that it's complex. So we're going to study this. We know that the computer itself, when we look at it, we're abstracting its functionality. But if you rip it apart and you look at what's inside, this is what you see. So we abstracted this thing. We're just highlighting examples.
So what are the areas that we need to focus on mostly? What are the areas that we need?
What do you mean? The areas are just it's abstraction. Now I know what you're doing here.
Heading for the quiz.
Okay.
No, I think what the sir is, you have told us it's based on the layers of abstraction. He has already said that we're trying to simplify the complex of a computer system. So we have to understand, like, why is abstraction important? Why is it needed?
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Why is it important? Can you give us examples of abstraction? You know, all those things. That's it. And in fact, if there's ever going to be a simplest quiz, it's on abstraction. Now I'm curious. I'm looking at the different people that are logged on. Is there no power? I see.
There is.
And there's blackout. There's no power at home. Right? Well, she's gone. I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
So we're looking this as a form of behind the scenes, what a machine can do, right? Or a computer, sorry.
Well, yes, that's why I was looking at it. Yes.
So that's what abstraction is all about, isn't it?
Not what a computer can do. Abstraction is all about.
Yeah, I know. As in doing things,
presenting the different complexities associated with the computer in a much more easier to understand manner.
Okay.
Here's a question for you. Now, I don't know about your mother and your father, but let's use your grandmother or your grandparents, if your grandparents or grand-aunts or something. If you were to explain how a computer works, do you think that you'd be able to better understand how it works by explaining to her using this image here, or by going to this image and explaining to her, say, oh, a computer has these buttons. When you press this button, this will eject. When you press it, it will switch the machine off. When you press it again, it will switch it on. You understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Those are just the small details.
Yeah. Any other concerns? I'm wary of the time, guys. We shouldn't be spending this much time on this. This is simple stuff. Okay, here's the thing here. Jumping on to what we're going to look at. So the lecture series that we expected to consume by the end of next week is going to be system software, right? So what we're clearly, because we are behind, what we're going to do in the next live session is we'll again revise application software and then combine application software with system software. And then in the other session, we'll combine system software with software licensing, right? So essentially what we're saying is that the remaining components here is for computer software lecture series number 5 is system software and software licensing. Great, so this is what we're going to look at. going forward, right? These are the remaining bits. Okay, so in terms of any other business here, guys, I wanted to hear your thoughts. Has anybody tried out the MTN zero rating? Are you now, have you confirmed that you're able to access Moodle for free on MTN network?
No, yes, I'm also interested. How do you even access that?
Well,
So
you just access it and you won't be charged.
mine is not working actually. I tried it last night. I had zero
On the
data.
MTN network?
Yes, MTN.
Okay, these are things we should look at. Then maybe, yeah.
Mine, I tried it this morning, and it's working.
Okay. Ah, okay. So the person who tried it last night, you want to try it again. So if one person says it's working, then we're sure it's working. So it's good. It's good because there's no excuse now, right?
Then that will have to wait until my data finishes.
Yeah, well, maybe, I suppose, but okay. But there's another way of testing. So you can install, I don't know if you guys have, okay, the time here. You can install applications like, I don't know who has installed No Firewall before. So what No Firewall does is you can block internet access for specific applications. And then what you can do is you can just activate one application, Moodle. Take note of how much balance you have in your MTN account. Use Moodle to download a lot of files, even files that you've already downloaded, to download them, and then try and see if you're going to be charged.
Oh,
you understand what I mean? To test
I can try
it,
that. My phone can do that.
Yes, please try it out. I think you should be able to work. So zero rating is working. And are we ready for quiz number 3 on Friday, which is day after tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Not very sure, sir, because
well, the cool thing is we have 2 days to prepare, right? So we'll be ready by Friday. Again,
okay, so
as usual.
Are you going to post the screencast as soon as we're done with this, or you first have to people?
Sorry, am I going to post what?
The screencast. The screencast.
Which screencast?
Oh, for this interaction.
Oh yeah, this is automatically recorded. If you notice, I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see this red thing that says REC?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, I always record this, so it's recording. Again, if you ever want to schedule, and I encourage you guys to do this, what you can do is you can set up a meeting as a group in class, so that you try and, what you want to do with this course is you want to experiment with these different applications on your own, see how they work. So I encourage you to say you create a meeting using Google Meet, right? And then try and see if you can record an interaction, a private interaction amongst you guys. You notice that when you record it, recording is as easy. Go to the menu item and you just say, record if you're not recording, or stop recording if you're recording. You should be playing around with these things. The reason, right? The reason I move around and point you to specific types of application like Vocal Screen, Project Libre, is not to put myself on a pedestal to say I can use this piece of application. Even your toddler sibling can use this application, but I'm trying to highlight the things we're discussing to showcase that there are different types of applications, which is why in this session I was playing around with different applications. What I would do is, if I were you, is I would play around with Google Calendar, for instance. If you haven't used Google Calendar, you should be curious enough to say, but how is it that Lighton is able to schedule his events? If you look at my events here, the way he does using Google Calendar, can I do the same thing? Do you understand what I mean? How is Lighton able to access mail and create or organize his email the way he organizes his emails? This is what you should be thinking in this course, right? But anyways, okay. So hope you'll be ready by Friday. So as usual, the Friday session, the Friday quiz will be open. Okay.
What software do you use when recording your screencast?